weight it can't describe. Your body gets up, but your mind is still chained. The day hasn't even begun, yet you already feel like you've run a marathon. Your thoughts are heavy, your chest tight, and even silence feels overwhelming. Everything around you looks normal. Work is waiting. Your phone buzzes again with notifications, messages disguised as opportunities. And once again, the world tells you, come on, you've got this. But here's the truth almost no one dares to tell you. You're not just tired. You're sick. And that sickness doesn't live only in your body. It's not just in your schedule or your habits. It's everywhere, woven into the very system you live in. We live in an age where pain has lost its name. There are no visible chains, no bosses screaming in your face, no orders barked across a factory floor. But something far more ruthless has taken its place. An invisible pressure to perform, to constantly produce, to be more, do more, prove more. You've become your own oppressor. What used to come from the outside, orders, rules, expectations, now lives inside your head, whispering endlessly, you're not doing enough, you're falling behind, you must not stop. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han called this the Burnout Society, and he was right. You think you're free, but you're more trapped than ever. Trapped by the belief that every moment must be useful, every task must bring results, every breath must take you somewhere. And if you stop, even for a moment, the guilt creeps in. You feel worthless for resting. You feel anxious for not responding. You feel like a failure for not meeting goals, even ones you never chose. This isn't just stress. This isn't something a weekend away can fix. This is burnout. Not physical exhaustion, but existential emptiness. A kind of inner collapse that keeps growing while you keep pretending everything's fine. You feel it, don't you? That invisible pressure, that weight in your chest, that quiet panic at the thought of slowing down. It's not your fault. You're not broken. You're just stuck in a system that was built to make you feel like this. This video isn't here to tell you how to work harder or be more productive. It's here to wake you up. Because maybe for the first time, someone is telling you the truth. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're just trying to survive in a society that punishes anyone who dares to pause. Take a deep breath. Really, let yourself feel it. You're not alone. We need to talk about this. Because this feeling you're carrying didn't start with you. For a long time, power screamed in our faces. There were factories, prisons, rules, punishments. You were told, sit down, stay quiet, obey. Michel Foucault called this the disciplinary society, a time where you followed orders out of fear. Someone told you what you couldn't do, and you listened, but that world is gone. Now something far more subtle and more dangerous has taken its place. And that's exactly what we'll uncover in the next part. How modern control disguises itself as freedom and leaves you silently exhausted. They told you that you were free, but that was the most sophisticated illusion of all. No one says you can't anymore. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You're told constantly that you can do anything, achieve everything, become whoever you want. You're reminded that you have unlimited potential, that the only limits are the ones you place on yourself. It sounds empowering, uplifting even. But underneath that bright motivational message hides a darker truth, a dangerous trap. Because if everything depends on you, then every failure becomes your personal fault. Every misstep, every pause, every moment of fatigue is now a moral weakness. This is the cruel genius of the performance society we live in. There are no visible chains, no barred windows, no orders being shouted at you. But the prison still exists. It just looks different now. Instead of walls, there are goals. Instead of a guard, there is your inner critic. And instead of punishment, through force, there is psychological self-flagellation. You've been turned into what Byung-Chul Han calls an entrepreneur of yourself. It sounds modern, ambitious, but what's the hidden cost? An entrepreneur never truly stops. There's always something to improve, some skill to sharpen, some area to grow, some metric to beat. And so, you're trapped in a race that never ends. No finish line, no rest, no peace. Only the constant demand to do more, be more, achieve more. Even rest has turned into a productivity tool. Reading, it must be educational now. Meditation, only useful if it enhances your performance. Exercise, it's no longer about joy or health. It's a duty. Even sleep is no longer a refuge. You track it, measure it, optimize it. You're not living, you're managing yourself like a project. And when you fall short, when your body collapses or your mind shuts down, what do? You blame yourself. Because after all, no one told you no. You had the freedom, you had the tools, you had the options. But that's exactly the trap. The cruelty lies in making you believe that you're willingly participating in your own oppression, that the pressure comes from within, not from a broken system. The boss is no longer someone in an office. It's the voice in your head that never lets you rest. The prison guard is now internal. The prison walls are invisible, but they're real, built from expectations, metrics, self-doubt, and constant self-demand. And the worst part, you no longer know where the system ends and where you begin. If all of this feels familiar, if it weighs on your shoulders like an invisible burden, then it's not your fault. It's the system. It's the model, and it's broken. Because it's not natural to live in constant war with yourself. It's not normal to feel exhausted before the day even begins. This quiet war you're fighting with your mind, your body, your soul leaves deep scars, but it hides behind something deceptively cheerful. And that's where we're headed next. The surprising force that fuels your inner exhaustion, excessive positivity, the kind that smiles while you're falling apart. Are you ready to look behind the mask? You thought you were the one pushing yourself, but in truth, you were being pushed by a society addicted to posi fever. In today's world, control doesn't bark orders anymore. It doesn't shout or restrain. Instead, it whispers in cheerful tones. It doesn't command, it motivates, it seduces. It gently insists that you smile, hustle, succeed, and be endlessly grateful. This is the new form of violence, the tyranny of positivity. As Byung-Chul Han warns us, the 21st century is no longer dominated by diseases of repression. We don't suffer under strict censorship or harsh prohibitions. What makes us sick today is not the oppressive, you can't, but the deceptive. Yes, you can. And when you hear yes, you can enough times, something inside you begins to crack. Because now, failure is your fault. Exhaustion is weakness. Sadness is ingratitude. Every moment of fatigue becomes a personal flaw. You are not allowed to stop, not allowed to slow down, not allowed to simply be. You're told to optimize yourself, to stay productive, to be happy always. But what happens when your body says no? When your mind starts to slip? When your soul quietly begs for silence? Suddenly, you're not just tired, you're ashamed. Couldn't focus today? You must be lazy, skipped your morning routine. You must lack discipline, feeling down. Try yoga, try a gratitude journal. Take a new course, learn to hustle better. The blame always circles back to you. That's how positivity makes you sick, because it has no room for limits. No space for sadness, slowness, stillness. It denies your human rhythms in favor of artificial performance. And the more you try to match that ideal, the hyperproductive, always smiling, ever-optimizing version of yourself, the more disconnected you become. You drift away from your real needs, your true emotions. You become a walking motivational poster, while something inside you quietly crumbles. Positivity has become an obligation. Everywhere you look, you're flooded with messages. Believe in yourself. Be your best self. Just want it enough. They sound harmless, even inspiring, but the real impact is different. These mantras don't lift you, they trap you, because no matter how hard you try, you never feel like you're doing enough. You don't rest, because there's always another goal to chase, another area to improve, another metric to meet. Social media amplifies it. Work demands reinforce it. Even your hobbies become competitive, tracked, measured, compared. You live in a maze of benchmarks and progress charts, and the constant stimulation doesn't energize you, it drains you. It's like being stuck on a treadmill that speeds up every time you find your balance. And the most painful part, you actually think you're the one who turned it on. But the truth is, you weren't born this way. None of us were. No one comes into the world wired for constant optimization. This model, this never-ending race, was built around you, and you were told it was freedom, but it's not. It's slowly hollowing you out, because underneath all this speed, all this pressure, all this polished positivity, something vital has been buried. A part of you that's been silenced, pushed aside, discredited. And maybe, just maybe, it's the only part still capable of saving you. It's time to dig it back up. It's time to talk about what you've forgotten, about boredom, about stillness, about silence, about all the essential, beautiful, and painful things you've stopped allowing into your life. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Into the quiet, where healing might finally begin. You were told that rest was laziness, that stillness was wasteful, and somehow you believed it. That's how deep the system has gone. It no longer needs to shout or punish. Instead, it quietly convinces you to push yourself harder than any boss ever would. And when you hesitate, it doesn't fire you, it erases you. It makes you feel invisible, irrelevant, lazy, outdated. This is the new cruelty. It's not imposed from the outside anymore. It's born from within. Byung-Chul Han called this phenomenon self-exploitation. You've internalized the pressure so completely that you no longer need anyone to monitor or manage you. You've become your own boss, your own taskmaster, your own enforcer. You micromanage your every move. You judge yourself before others do. You punish yourself for not being productive enough. In this strange new world, productivity is the new obedience. It's the new religion. You think you're free because you can choose. You can dream, create, hustle, and chase goals. But the truth, the part no one talks about, is that all roads, no matter how colorful they look, seem to lead to the same destination. More work, more pressure, more speed. Freedom has been reduced to the freedom to exhaust yourself in ever more sophisticated ways. Even the sacred has been colonized by performance. Your body, a machine to optimize. Your mind, a tool for chasing outcomes. relationships, rebranded as strategic networking, spirituality, just another productivity hack in disguise. Rest, not for renewal, but to recharge and get back to producing. Even your free time isn't really free. It's tracked, analyzed, monetized. You're a company, and you're the CEO, the worker, and the only one left to keep it running. But how long can you do this? How long before something inside you starts to break? The weight you carry isn't just on your shoulders. It's in your soul. It's not just physical fatigue, it's existential exhaustion. You're everywhere, all the time, but never fully with yourself. You keep going, functioning, responding, yet you're not truly living. Not really. Deep down, you feel it. The more you chase this shiny ideal of success, the more disconnected you become from your own essence. And that leads us to a question. Most people are too afraid to ask, what have you lost in the process? What part of you was sacrificed to become this better version of yourself? What dreams, what softness, what joy did you abandon just to keep up with the speed of modern life? Maybe there's a part of you that can't even remember what it feels like to exist without needing to justify your existence every moment. But that part, the one you've silenced, ignored, forgotten, it's still there, waiting, and that's where we'll go next. Into the quiet, into the boredom you avoid, into the contemplation that once gave meaning to existence, and might still hold the key to reclaiming your life. Because maybe, just maybe, you weren't made to perform. You were made to feel, to breathe, to be. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly did nothing? Not plan, not scroll, not explain, not fix. Just existed. Just sat in the moment and felt it pass, without guilt, without fear, without needing to turn it into something useful. Maybe you don't even remember how. And that's not your fault. You were trained to fill every pause, to respond to every ping, to stay in motion no matter what. Silence has become uncomfortable. Boredom feels dangerous. Even leisure has become one more task to optimize. But in the next part, we'll uncover the truth behind this discomfort and why learning to do nothing might be the most powerful act of all. Ready to slow down? Let's go there, together. You've been running for so long that the very idea of stopping feels unnatural. But maybe stillness is not your enemy. Maybe it's the door you've been searching for. We've been taught to fear boredom, to treat it like a virus that needs immediate distraction. But no one told us that deep boredom, the kind that lingers, that unsettles, that forces you to sit with yourself, isn't the flaw of the human experience. It's a hidden doorway, a portal. Byung-Chul Han reminds us that in the past, boredom wasn't a threat. It was sacred space, the womb of philosophy, the birthplace of art, the quiet cradle of spirituality. Because real boredom, the one that is still, uncomfortable, and stripped of stimulation, opens something ancient within us. The capacity to reflect, to imagine, to be fully present. But we no longer know how to enter that space. Instead, we live trapped in a shattered attention span. Our minds leap from one notification to the next, like prey sensing danger. Watch a video, reply to a message, check your email, worry about tomorrow's meeting, all while silently punishing yourself for not doing more. This isn't multitasking anymore. It's panic disguised as productivity, and there is a cost, a deep one. The price of this hyperactive mental state is your connection to the world, to others, and most heartbreakingly, to yourself. You start living only on the surface, skimming through life like scrolling a feed. Even your own emotions get consumed quickly. You feel them, but you don't sit with them. You reflect, but never deeply. You live, but never truly inhabit your own life. That's why you still feel exhausted even after sleeping. That's why anxiety clings to you in moments of silence. That's why you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. Your soul has been trained to move faster, but it's forgotten how to stop. And here's the part they never told you. Stopping isn't failure. It's a return. In silence, you begin to hear the things your busyness has buried. In stillness, you start to notice how wounded you've been. In the pause, that raw, sometimes painful pause, you begin to rediscover who you are when the labels, roles, and schedules are stripped away. But this return to yourself demands courage. Courage to slow down. Courage to sit in the discomfort of having nothing urgent to do. Courage to resist the guilt that rises when you are unproductive. And most importantly, the courage to say no. No to the constant pressure, the polished perfection, the demand to always be on. And that's where Byung-Chul Han offers one of his most radical, powerful insights, a truth that feels almost subversive in our age of ambition. The idea that not being able can itself be a form of freedom. It may sound strange at first, counterintuitive, but may be the most revolutionary act. Today, the one that truly breaks the cycle is doing nothing, stopping, saying no, letting go. Maybe, just maybe, the true rebel of our time isn't the one who does more, but the one brave enough to pause in the next part. We'll explore this deeper. Why stopping isn't just healing. It might be the most powerful choice you'll ever make, and what it really means to find freedom in a world addicted to action. Are you ready to stop? Not out of defeat, but out of awakening. Let's keep going. You've spent a lifetime chasing usefulness, and maybe it's time to question who defined what that even means. Modern life tells us that if something doesn't serve a clear purpose, if it doesn't create a result, if it can't be justified, then it's a waste. Rest must be framed as recovery. Silence must be branded as mindful self-care. Even peace needs a productivity angle. The value of every moment is measured not by its depth, but by its output. But Byung-Chul Han offers a radically different view. A quiet revolution. He proposes that true freedom doesn't begin with doing more. It begins with the right to not do, to not produce, to not strive, to not chase constant meaning. He invites us to reclaim the simple, powerful truth that we are enough, even when we're still, even when we can't, even when we stop. At first, this idea feels upside down. After all, we spend our lives trying to gain power, the power to choose, to act, to decide, to accomplish. But somewhere along the way, the power to do became an obligation. Now, if you can do something, you're expected to. No pause, no question. But what if you don't want to? What if you're just ... tired? Society has a ready answer. If you're not performing, you've failed. In that mindset, there's no space for vulnerability, no room for honest fatigue. There's only action, growth, optimization. Any hesitation or refusal is labeled as laziness, weakness, or a personal defect. But maybe, just maybe, it's in that sacred space of refusal that real strength is born, because saying no, that's powerful. Choosing not to overload yourself, not to hustle endlessly, not to chase every offer, not to say yes to everything. That's not weakness, that's resistance. It's a rebellion against the worship of endless productivity. When you finally allow yourself to stop, to not answer, not strive, not push, something within you shifts. The noise fades, the guilt quiets, the breath deepens. You return to yourself, whole, present, now, but don't mistake this kind of freedom for comfort. It demands something from you. It asks you to confront your fear of emptiness. It asks you to look into the void and say, I'm enough, even now, especially now. It goes against everything you've ever been taught. And that's why it's so hard. That's why so many people keep chasing new versions of the same trap, trying to escape burnout by overcompensating with new goals, new schedules, new life hacks. They don't realize they're just swapping one form of slavery for another. The real challenge isn't doing more. It's being able to stop striving, to stop pleasing, to stop measuring your worth in units of effort. And when you begin to see your ability to stop as liberation, something else emerges, a kind of clarity, a quiet power, a peace that only appears when you stop fighting yourself and start allowing yourself to be. That's the deepest truth in all of this, one that you've likely felt, even if you couldn't name it. The burnout you're experiencing isn't just physical exhaustion. It's not just a bad week. It's not weakness. It's the symptom of a life model that no longer works. It's a spiritual cry from within. If you're still here, still watching, it's because some part of you recognizes this. Even if you've buried it, even if it's faint, it's still there. A voice inside that whispers, something's not right. And I want to tell you, clearly and compassionately, what you're feeling isn't a flaw. It's not mental fragility. It's not your failure. It's the normal response of a soul forced to survive in a system that never stops taking. You're not collapsing because you're weak. You're exhausted because you've been stretched beyond what's human. You were never meant to function like a machine. You were never designed to constantly perform, perfect, and prove. You are a living being, not a brand, not a productivity dashboard, not an avatar of endless energy. Byung-Chul Han is not vague about this. Burnout is not a personal crisis. It's a collective one. It's the symptom of a culture that praises self-exploitation and devalues inner life. It's not the collapse of a few fragile people. It's the inevitable crash of a society that confuses output with meaning and silence with failure. So, if you've been feeling that deep fatigue, if something in you aches even when life looks fine, please believe this. You are not alone. This weariness is not your fault. It is a message, a sacred signal. Your body, your mind, your spirit are begging for something else, a different rhythm, a softer pace, a truer way of being in the world. And that way begins with something simple, something radical, a choice, the choice to stop living the way things are. You may not know the full path yet. You may feel moved but unsure of where to go next. That's okay. The first step is not action, it's awareness. It's the willingness to feel what you've been suppressing, to look inward without judgment, without masks, without rushing to fix it. If this spoke to you, even if you can't explain why, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Let your voice be heard, because healing begins with being seen, with being understood. And when we recognize our shared pain, we begin to reclaim our power. Keep watching the next video. It matters just as much as this one, because real transformation doesn't come in a single moment. It unfolds slowly in the pauses between stories, in the reflections that build, in the awareness that deepens, until one day You wake up, not as someone new, but as someone whole, someone home.